Hello again. We're back with the Teeing Off Golf Podcast hosted by the Chicago Tribune. I'm John Borneman here with Matt Harness. I'm sure, Matt, you missed me last week when we didn't sit down to record.
There did feel like a void in last week's order of events, but we wanted to, wait and see what happened with the U.S. Open.
Because we were busy watching the U.S. Open.
Yeah,
I didn't have any time to do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, we sat together and watched the final 5 hours.
It was interesting to have it start at 4:30, the final round, or 5 o'clock, really, the final group teed off, I think, to be able to sit there and watch the entire thing in prime time when Sunday felt like it was already over.
It does. Pacific time seems to be best. Maybe Mountain time would be best. It ends an hour earlier. But it is great to be able to watch it in prime time. It was all 4 rounds went into the evening hours here. Yeah. So I enjoyed that. It's it allows more people to watch it.
Who did not enjoy it was Teddy Greenstein, who the guys in the Midwest, East Coast newspapers having to hit those deadlines when it's ending 9:30.
Yeah, possibly. That's. I guess not my problem.
Nobody else really cares about newspaper writers complaining about their deadlines either.
Yeah, but no, I thought it turned out to be a very entertaining tournament, if nothing else.
Yeah, entertaining, we'll talk about that. Entertaining is probably a good word for it. It's more entertaining probably if you were on the other side of the television set. And we had a vested interest because, as we've talked about, nonstop for the last couple of weeks, a local product, Nick Hardy of Northbrook, qualified for and played pretty well in the U.S. Open at Chambers Bay.
Played pretty well. It's somewhat of an understatement for a 19-year-old getting in for the very first time. I'll go ahead and say I was on record to say he would make the cut.
There you go.
And he makes the cut on the number. Actually, and he did, 15.
He made the number.
He made the number 15 pros, they were joking, owe him dinner. And, of course, he had to say, I can't accept because it's against NCAA rules.
Is that accurate? I guess that's probably true based on your golfing ability. So, yes, you were on record. I was on record saying that I thought the U.S. Open would be an unmitigated disaster.
Which does too far.
It might, you know what, possibly too far for everyone except for Dustin Johnson. So, but
Billy Horschel might agree with you.
Normally, we save an interview for the end of the podcast, but we were lucky enough to get a couple minutes with Nick.
Before we get to that, let's just run down. So he shot 70. Even par 70 the very first day. In fact, one time I took a screenshot, he was tied for 7th at one point. He always
on Thursday.
That. On Thursday. Then 75 to make the cut. 77, which Saturday was a tough day. He was the first tee time. Then he, on Father's Day, with his dad, John Hardy, in attendance, he shoots 268. Finished tied for 52nd. Guys he beat, how about Ernie Els, Luke Donald, Phil Mickelson, and Tiger Woods.
Wow.
Bubba Watson, Ricky Fowler.
Yeah. All kinds of names.
I was jotting some notes down. If nothing else happens in Nick's career, which that's not going to be the case, what a story to tell your grandkids.
Oh, yeah.
When I was 19 years old, I beat, arguably Tiger Woods, the best player of all time at a U.S. Open. Pretty damn cool. Yeah. He was one of 6 amateurs to make the cut. He was the youngest of those to make the cut, and he finished 4th in that group of 6. Mm-hmm. So let's.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes talking to Nick. He's out on the golf course again, of course, preparing for his next set of tournaments. But we talked to him a little bit about the U.S. Open experience, and so we're going to go to that pre-recorded interview right now.
So this is teeing off with John Borneman and Matt Harness, and we have U.S. Open finisher Nick Hardy here with us. Nick, how you doing? Has it sunk in yet that you just played 4 rounds at the U.S. Open?
Yeah, it has actually. It's pretty cool and it was a great experience. So I can move on and learn from that.
Well, I read somewhere or maybe you told Eric Marcus, your caddy, also your a good friend, that you said, I plan to be back at a lot more of these.
Yeah, I did tell him that, I'm pretty sure. Eric and I, we said that to each other, leaving. We want to be back at many more of these competing, and we really think we can win one of them.
Did you ever take any time? I know you have pretty much a laser focus on golf, but did you take any time just to kind of look around and just soak up the experience? I mean, after all, you are 19 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard not to watch him on the range, hitting with him, but it's definitely cool to see them hit some balls and just get around. It was really cool. So, wasn't really starstruck by any of them, but I mean, I feel like I can hit the ball. I can keep up with them, ball striking wise, and I thought it was pretty cool to see that and compare myself and compare my game to theirs.
How'd you feel you stacked up? Do you feel like your game's pretty comparable?
I'm sorry?
I said, how did you feel you stacked up? I mean, when you see these other guys on the range, did it look pretty much the same?
Yeah, I felt like I was, right up there with them. I mean, my ball striking was really on this week, and it even shows in the stats that I was right up at the top, with the guys in the field. So I felt like I wasn't losing any shots or losing anything to them with ball striking at all. I feel like, I was, more surprised with how, long I was ball striking wise with them. I was very confident in that respect.
So I did read, I think when you talked to Teddy Greenstein from the Chicago Tribune, that you met Tiger Woods. What was that?
Yeah.
Where did you meet him?
We were the only two on the putting green on Sundays, one of the practice rounds, and so I just kind of went up to him and said I was a big fan, and it was pretty cool. I was a little nervous going up to him, of course, because I've watched every shot he's hit in the past 15 years of my life, and my hero basically. So it was really cool meeting him. He was a good guy. We talked for a little bit. It was pretty cool.
Were you more nervous in the seconds walking up to Tiger Woods, or in the seconds before you hit your first tee shot on Thursday?
That's a good comparison. I think it was definitely meeting Tiger.
Well, because really, I mean, when you get to that first tee, I mean, after that, it's just golf. You've played a lot of golf. You played a lot of highly competitive golf, and stacked up pretty well. Talk about. I mean, there was, of course, a lot of talk about the golf course itself. How did you think it played?
I thought it was a great U.S. Open venue. The course played outstanding. I mean, I thought it was fast and firm. Obviously, the greens. A lot of the pros were complaining. I agree, they're pretty bad, but everyone's got to putt them. So it's really, I didn't really see it as that big of a deal because everyone was putting on the same greens, but they were very inconsistent in how they work from green to green. They're all different. They all have a different amount of playing on them, so it made it tough to judge the speed because the ones with more playing ahead were slower than the others. A few of the greens were perfect. Some of them didn't have any playing on them at all, so those were really good. But most of them had a lot of playing on them, so they're bumpy and slow, and you never know where they could go. And especially in the afternoon when they got firm and faster, it was even more difficult to putt them.
Well, I know you don't have much to compare it to, but were you surprised at all at how difficult or how playable the course was? I mean, did it meet your expectations going into it in terms of difficulty?
Yeah, I mean, for how fast and firm the course played, I definitely expected that going in because I'd heard some things about Chambers Bay about being like a link-style course, so I knew it was going to be like that, but I didn't think the greens were going to be like that. I thought they were going to be, I definitely expected better on them, but got there and saw that we were playing those, but you just have to change your attitude. You just have to, still expect the putts to go in and still expect yourself to hit good putts. That's all you can do.
Well,
you can't be whining about them. The guys who are complaining about them definitely are just taken out of the mix. You're not going to win. So you got to just change the attitude and just make good putts.
Well, Matt and I were talking on the way here about, you almost found your way into the U.S. Open record books. I think I don't know that anybody has a hole-in-one on a par 4, and you very nearly did that on Thursday, didn't you?
Yeah, the shot hit the pin, didn't battle out, but was a little unlucky, but it was lucky to hit the pin.
Well, you misread the break or what?
It's a pretty good shot.
So Nick, I talked to Eric last night, and he said that it's sort of an uphill tee shot, so you could see the top of the flag, but you couldn't see the ball roll and hit the pin, correct?
Yeah, I could see the ball land and roll up, but I couldn't see it after it rolled to the left. I had no idea where it was.
So he told me that
I thought it was a pretty good shot when I hit it, but you hit the fence, starting to roar louder, and then it hit the pin, and they all went crazy. And at first, Eric thought it was in, but I'm like, no, man, they just you could tell that it didn't go in, but it was pretty cool because I knew it had to hit the pin or lip out or something.
So he said that you guys also found out that they radioed back to the tee box and said that a ball had hit the pin.
Yeah, they found out right away, but you could just tell by the fans' excitement that it definitely hit the pin and it did go in. If it did go in, it would have been crazy, but it was pretty crazy as it was.
I know you weren't in the mix on Sunday, but still a 68 on the last day at the U.S. Open is pretty impressive. And Father's Day to boot with your dad giving Twitter updates the whole way. What was the experience like just having your dad and really a whole clan of your family out there at Chambers Bay?
Yeah, it was really cool having everyone there. It was special having everyone on Father's Day for sure. My dad's been most influential in my golf career for sure. He got me into the game, and it was really cool to be able to do that. Finish off like that. I was pretty pleased with how I finished the tournament.
You know what you did, Nick, is you raised the bar way too high for every other person for Father's Day because we can't possibly give them such a good gift.
I got to take that tie back now and get something else.
Well, I know you got to run here, but just give us a quick rundown of your upcoming schedule. Where can people in the Chicago area come see you play this summer?
I've got the stadium down in Springfield next, which is in 3 weeks, so I've got some time off. But after that, I'm going to play the Illinois Open, Washington, and USAM, which are all in the Chicago area. So I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to finishing the summer off strong.
Yeah, Nick, you're kidding. You're not taking any time off before the state am. How many holes are you playing today?
Probably at least 27.
That's what I figured. Well, Nick, thanks a lot. We'll let you get on the course. Appreciate you taking the time with us.
Good, no problem.
All right, thanks.
All right, see you, Nick.
So there's Nick Hardy. I hope you could hear him. His phone, or maybe Matt's horribly shattered iPhone, is responsible for the lack of clarity in the phone call. But I think you probably got the gist of it, which is that Nick is probably not sounding as excited about having been at the U.S. Open as you or I or anyone else would have. Sounds like a player who expects to be back there and improve on his performance in the future.
I mean, I'm thinking. I mean, he probably expects to be back there every year from now. Going forward. I mean, how could you not think you're going to not be better, the next year? I mean, nobody that I know in the game of golf works as hard at their game as he does.
And of course, that's not really how it works, especially with the U.S. Open. I mean, especially when you're a player of Nick's age. I mean, you saw, Bo Hostler, he's made 3 U.S. Opens, but he made 2, and then he missed out for a little while because you have to go through that qualifying grind every year until you start to really be able to build up your world rank or, your other exemptions that you can get or times that you've finished high in previous U.S. Opens. I mean, it's a grind just to get into that tournament.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few ways that he could qualify without doing that, but, I mean, one being the USAM's coming up.
Right.
I think if he wins that, or maybe even, first of all, if he wins that or finishes second, he earns an invitation.
Well, there you go. I'm sure, and I'm sure that is. I mean, knowing Nick, I'm sure he believes he's got a chance to, or
Oh,
he
yeah.
probably
I
believes
mean,
he will win that. So
Illinois played their very first tournament of this season at Olympia Fields in some pretty awful weather. And I don't think their scores were terribly great, but, Nick knows that course. And, it'll probably be a setup maybe somewhat similar. These college kids are as prepared as any to play in these big tournaments. So it's certainly what I'm saying now. I mean, nothing he really does surprises me anymore. So I don't see why he couldn't be considered a guy that could win that.
Yeah, and some cool stuff, obviously, for him at the U.S. Open. Matt ran down a lot of the things. The thing that stuck out to me is we talked about the short par 4 12 with him, that tee shot he hit that almost went in on Thursday. And he eagled that hole. Is that right? That's when he got up to tied for 8th?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was just a tap in.
Yeah, so, sitting there, that eagle, he played by himself, as you said, on Saturday, is it?
Well, he was odd man. But you're one of your favorite guys, Bryson DeChambeau.
Who soon will be the best dressed man on the PGA Tour. Whenever he turns pro, with his +4s and his whatever you call those hats, I have no idea. The newsboy cap hat. Or whatever. Yeah, whatever that is. Yes, he's a guy that's fun to watch just for his appearance alone. But he's stuck around after missing the cut to play another 18, which. If you're an amateur, why would you want to leave the U.S. Open before they drug you off the premises?
Yeah, no, and so it's kind of cool. I guess you can choose to play by yourself, or you can ask for marker for sort of pace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it probably just helps keep a rhythm. But and one thing that we mentioned in the podcast, if it was or with the interview with Nick, if it wasn't clear, his caddy Eric Marcus, a very good friend of his from growing up, has caddied for him several times. Now, this, of course, being the biggest tournament, he was on the bag at the Western Amateur last summer at Beverly when Nick made the semifinals. I'm trying to remember when he first caddied for him, but it's been for several years now, and he loves it. As we maybe talked about today, it's like why can't I have a friend that is that good at golf? I'm sorry, yeah. I can't be that guy.
Well, I mean, I'm getting there, and I shot 76
I'm not carrying
today.
Your bag.
I could shoot 76 and miss the cut a lot of places.
That's no good.
And it's probably not true either. A 76 at Ravistol is like a 90 on tour.
Yeah. But that's a very cool story too. I mean, he's 18 years old. He's turned his dad. I talked to his dad last night. He turns 19 sometime this summer. But I think the two of them are thinking long term. I mean, I know Nick wants to be a professional golfer, and I'm pretty positive that Eric wants to be a professional caddy.
A successful professional golfer's caddy is a good job to have.
I mean, I would trade places with Jordan Spieth's caddy right now.
That guy's living the good life.
I mean, this guy is, talk about, fortuitous set of circumstances, getting on that bag. I mean, he caddied for Justin Thomas at the 2010 U.S. Amateur, which was at Chambers Bay. He was a local caddy at the time. Justin Thomas was friends with Jordan Spieth. No, I'm sorry, that's not entirely correct. Anyway, Justin Thomas had Michael Greller on the bag. When Jordan Spieth turned pro, Justin Thomas, I think, recommended him. And, Jordan had to work his way through. Mm-hmm. But now he's won, the first two Grand Slams when the kid's 21 years old.
Right. I mean, when's the last time? What was Tiger the last one to win the first two majors of the year? And that must have been back in 2002 or something like that.
That sounds right.
Yeah. And then prior to that, I mean, I don't know when the last time it happened was, but it just does not happen. This is kind of crazy that we're seeing this here. I mean, because winning one, Masters is completely different than the U.S. Open, and to win them both, be that in that good a form. I mean, you start to think about the idea of the Grand Slam and whether Jordan could do something that outrageous. I know you had looked at the odds for that
Yeah, 25-1,
which is still crazy
to complete the Grand Slam, which
That's
I think
nuts.
is a little low.
Way too low.
But people are already. This is what sometimes, fans, maybe media, they tend not to appreciate the moment. They start to go a little farther down the road. I mean, let's just stop for a second and enjoy the fact that he's won 2 majors. That is a career.
Oh, for a lot of guys, yeah.
For almost everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And they're already saying, well, he's got to get this Grand Slam. It's almost as if they're taking what he's doing for granted.
Right.
And, it's...
be careful with the bar there.
Yeah. I mean,
Jordan, let's not put it too high.
Right. And that's not to say he can't do it. I mean, he has as good a chance as anybody, if not better. I mean, he's certainly proved that he's one of the best players in the world. But winning majors is not as easy as just showing up.
What do you think a guy like Mickelson thinks, who grinded for so long to win one damn major, and Jordan Spieth comes out, he's like, I just barely can have a beer. Like, let me win 2 of these things real quick.
I think Mickelson is pretty okay with his life.
Well, I'm sure he is, but, and when it's how it pertains specifically to majors. Also, Mickelson would trade a lot of things for that one U.S. Open, I think.
Probably so. I mean, at this point, after having everything else that he wants, I certainly would think that, yes, the U.S. Open would be one of those things. And again, that speaks to how hard it is to win, these tournaments. I mean, he's finished second 6 times, a record 6 times. I mean, for just that is a pretty darn good accomplishment, but he's still not winning it. And, so let's enjoy what Jordan Spieth is doing, and let's not get too far ahead, because if you get too far ahead and you say, if he doesn't win the next 2 majors, are we going to look at him like as a disappointment?
Right.
That's crazy. I mean, this is still one of the best.
It's 4 or bust. He has to win 2 every year the rest of the way out.
This is what it's starting to seem like.
Right.
I mean, people are going to expect him, if he doesn't win a major every year or complete this Grand Slam, it's like, well, thanks a lot,
Way
Jordan.
to blow it.
Yeah.
He's
wrong?
essentially like a Triple Crown horse now, where you don't win the 3rd race, you're like, come on again.
Yeah, so, let's...
Well, the flip side of that, of course, is Dustin Johnson, that heartbreaking moment when he misses the short putt to force a playoff.
That was tough to watch.
If anybody who plays golf, has probably, even if it's for the, a $2 Nassau or something that's stupid, has missed a short putt that has cost them a match or cost you a personal best score or whatever, and it sucks a lot.
Yeah. You could always second guess about what he should have done. I mean, the way he hit that first putt, it looked like he wanted to make it.
Right.
Of course, people are saying, well, he shouldn't have tried to make it.
Right.
Said because it's a downhill, kind of sliding putt, should have just sort of cozied it up there. I mean, again, it's easy to say it now, the armchair.
I saw AP golf writer Doug Ferguson tweet, maybe a day or 2 later, that you couldn't overstate how quick that putt was from above the hole there. And so, the guys who are saying, oh, well, why don't you just cozy it up? I mean, it's not always so easy. Sometimes,
it's not.
I mean, those greens are running hard and fast, and, you could easily just run an eagle putt by. And in that moment, I mean, I'm sure his heart's beating out of his chest, and he's thinking he's got a putt to win the U.S. Open.
Right. And you wonder that second putt was, 3-4 feet.
Yeah.
I almost sort of equate it to that he just, lack of a better word, just sort of blacked out.
Yeah.
It just didn't maybe go through his process. It seemed he hit that second putt pretty quickly, and it missed the hole completely.
Yeah.
And it was just like he was just sort of stunned.
Yeah.
He didn't, and I don't know. I mean, I'm just, again, sitting here,
we're also armchair quarterback
expert, but it did seem like he rushed, and he might have just not been thinking, through, because, who knows what happens. I mean, you play another, they would have forced a playoff 18 holes the next day, and, Dustin Johnson was playing pretty darn good. I mean, we said
we called it on the front 9. Not called that he would lose. We said it's over. He's going to win. I mean, he
just
looked
looked so
tons
good.
The best.
He hit every fairway. He's 330 yards down.
Yeah.
Every one. I mean, he was stuffing his
But
irons.
the stat they showed at the turn, I mean, ended up telling he was the only guy in the leaders who had been playing that back 9 under par, or over par, and he struggled on the back 9 again. I mean, he needed Spieth double bogeying 17.
Yeah, so
17 to let him back in it in the first place.
Yeah, so this is where we are. I mean, you go into 17. Spieth has a 3-shot lead.
Mm-hmm.
So Dustin went into the turn with a 2-shot lead. Spieth's now winning this tournament by 3 with 2 holes to play. He double bogeys 17. I think people say, oh, well, Dustin Johnson lost his tournament. Well, Spieth nearly lost it.
That's the question. It's Spieth winning versus Dustin Johnson losing. And, yeah, Spieth 1 hole earlier.
Dustin birdies 17. Spieth bogeys it. All of a sudden, they're now tied. I mean, Dustin gave himself a chance again to win and just pipes that drive on 18.
I mean,
and then hits it to 12 feet.
He hit a shot every bit as impressive as the second shot that Spieth hit into 18, which was, also very good. But yeah, they both played that hole perfectly. Spieth was able to 2-putt for that birdie, but
right. You just wonder if it, like I said, I think just that second putt, he just blacked out. I don't know that. Yeah. I bet he couldn't remember if you didn't show him that putt. I wonder if he could remember how he hit it.
I tend to give more credit to just Spieth.
Yeah.
I say Spieth. Dustin Johnson did not gag that tournament away. He made the mistakes and the things that happened at a U.S. Open. Jordan Spieth won that tournament, and he did it by just kind of keeping his head down and grinding out his round early on when it looked like he wasn't playing particularly well. They weren't even showing him on TV.
I was going to say, even Fox
back, and Fox is treating him like every Sunday at a major. There's the one guy in the final 2 groups who will basically shank the ball down the first hole, and you will not see him again until he rolls in his final putt on the 18th hole because they have no one else to show. That was how they were treating Jordan Spieth, and he was a stroke off the lead, but he just kept sort of making pars, sticking around, and when the door was open in the back 9, he went and took it.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about the Fox coverage because I don't necessarily know much about it, but
no more Kurt Menefee, no more Tom Weiskopf. God, that was brutal.
They ignored players. I mean, Louis Oosthuizen shot a 29 on the back.
Yeah.
9. He almost gets in that playoff.
Right.
They barely showed this guy.
Right.
They showed a ton of Rory McIlroy. I mean, they practically showed Jason Day walking from every tee to green. Every green to tee, and it was a compelling story.
In the event he fell down.
I think that's what they wanted.
Right.
They wanted him. I hate to say that, but it's like they didn't have a well balanced coverage. Yeah. I mean, the thing I liked the most about it was that shot tracer. I think that was
great job on the shot tracer. I enjoyed that. I guess I didn't know this about myself. I cannot get enough of watching how the ball flies in there and how they flight the ball. That's really interesting to me. They could cut down the rest of the graphics a little bit. I mean, it's like watching a video game. But
it was, maybe a little. The TV was a little messy looking,
right? But they wanted to make a splash. They probably poured a bunch of money into it. I mean, it's anytime it's their first tournament they've hosted. I'm sure they'll get better. And
they almost had too many people.
Yeah, they had a lot of analysts. Yeah, and when you do that, you're going to get some who are better than others, and you're going to end up having those guys.
I think you're not the only one to sort of dump on Kurt Menefee.
Half the time he's looking down on his notes. It was all stilted.
He mistook a lot of. He got a lot of things wrong.
Keep him on Sundays for football, I suppose. But
what do you think? In addition to Jordan Spieth, winning, which certainly is the main headline here. But the next one is the USGA and how they set this course up got roundly criticized by players.
I was right.
Especially the green.
Right.
But I think
it wasn't the reason that I thought it would be.
Yeah.
It wasn't the reason I thought it would be. The greens, though, were hideous in a lot of cases. And, I think Ian Poulter, sort of led the way.
He spoke his mind?
Well, he said, yes. He said he was going to keep his mouth shut for the entire tournament. And to his credit, he did. But afterwards, I think on Facebook, he posted a photo of the greens looking very rugged, I would say, and a long missive against the USGA. Who was it who said, was it Horschel who said that he lost a lot of respect for the USGA, which the USGA probably said That's great, Billy.
But yeah,
But
he was very outspoken. I mean, he did that
he
gesture.
pretended like he was going to tomahawk his putter, which made me think, what would happen to a player who did that? Because
I don't
remember
know.
how mad people got when Sergio spit in one of the cups or something like that?
I don't
What if a pro tomahawked a putter like
And it was
3
by
feet
the
from the
cup,
hole,
yeah.
right? Where you are going to have a lot of guys putting over that. I don't know what would happen. I doubt they'll play on many more greens that invokes that type of action.
Well, I spoke to. I'm working on a story about Nick Hardy's caddy Eric Marcus, and so I'd spoken to a couple of professional caddies. Butch Wilhelm, who was a guy I knew from my days in LaGrange, Georgia, when he was a head pro at one of the golf courses down there. Anyway, he carries the bag for Sandy Lyle, who is now a Champions Tour player, and I just asked him. I said, of course, he was watching it on TV just like the rest of us. But he said it's a good thing it turned out to be a great tournament. Otherwise, that's all everybody would be talking about. He just said they did a horrible job setting up the golf course, especially the greens. He said close to a year ago, he had heard guys on tour thinking that they were going to pull it just because the course was in such bad shape. I mean, the condition-wise.
Wow.
And he just said it's a shame that they had greens like that for a major championship. And I think the biggest beef was maybe not as much as that they were bad as that they were inconsistent.
Right, and that's what Nick said.
Right, Nick said that you couldn't know from green to green how each one was going to roll. And Butch just said that he's like, at the end of the day though, they're going to play this tournament and somebody's going to win. Might as well be us. So at the end of the day, you just have to forget. You put that out of your mind because they're not going to. At that point, they're not canceling the tournament. You just have to suck it up and play. Does that make Billy Horschel feel any better? No, but I'm not sure the USGA really cares how Billy Horschel feels.
And he was just one of the more vocal ones. Ian Poulter, one of the more post-tournament vocal ones. Other guys, took a more measured approach. But I think generally, my favorite part was when someone compared the greens to broccoli, and McIlroy came and said, "Well, that's not really fair. They're not like broccoli. They're more like cauliflower because at least broccoli is green," which was probably my favorite course burn this week.
That was probably the right approach, was just to sort of have a sense of humor about it because there's nothing.
They're not going to play the last round somewhere else.
I'm wondering, now how good maybe we would play on those greens, considering some of the courses we have to play in the Chicago area.
I mean, Matt rolled a putt today that jumped right out, made a jump about a third of the way to the hole and ended up about an inch short. So that would have been a birdie, and your whole day may have been different. I may not have waxed you in this match that we had today.
I'm just trying to find out where. It's going to Oakmont next year,
which is a more traditional U.S. Open course. It's trees, deep rough.
So
luscious
let me
green
just
grass.
go ahead and say players are going to complain that the rough is too high, the greens are too perfect and fast.
Well, if you're Mike Davis and you've been hearing this for the last, USGA's
he
Mike
should
Davis,
make the fairway look like a one-way street.
I think he probably will. He'd be like, you know what, you guys prefer the trees and rough setup? That's great. We're gonna get these greens nice and smooth and running fast. We're gonna bring the rough up and the trees come in a little bit.
Yeah, I think right now he's ordering trees for Oakmont.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see, how it swings. But this,
we're gonna get an up close look at a USGA setup when the USAM comes to Olympia Fields.
I would
later.
hope that they're not as sadistic when the amateurs
summer.
are there.
They set the golf courses up, almost as difficult.
Well, wasn't the bag on it when the U.S. Open was there that they didn't get the right weather conditions for Furyks one in like 2003 or something, and that the rough didn't get as long and as tough as it should have, and that's why
Furyk won.
Well, that's why. Yeah. Well, I think that's what it was, if I remember correctly. And I could be just talking complete nonsense here. So You
That's
aren't.
more
You
like
clearly
me.
aren't backing me up on this.
I don't remember.
Don't you remember what it was like in 2003?
I mean, I was there, but no, I don't necessarily remember exactly what it was like.
Well,
That was my first year in
This is the
Chicago.
next couple majors that have similar look to what we had at the U.S. Open here with going to St. Andrews and then Whistling Straits, all links style courses. The one tree that Chambers Bay had will be the only tree at the last 3 majors of the season. I think I read somewhere.
Is that right?
On the course, yeah. So it's a similar look. So guys who hated this week, the greens might get a little bit better. But it's going to be similar to style of golf for the next couple majors, which is maybe that plays in Jordan Spieth's favor.
Yeah, and you wonder if Dustin Johnson can bounce back.
I wonder how many more he's got. How many more bounce backs he's got because he had the major that he was leading at Pebble Beach and then he blew up in the final round. I think he shot 80 something. Graham McDowell wins. Okay. They give you that. It's your first real major that you're leading. That happens. A lot of guys have done that. And then Whistling Straits, which I think was it you who was telling me about. Were you rewatching that tournament, the final round of that,
Oh, yeah.
and seeing the fans actually standing in the quote unquote bunker that
they had to clear.
Dustin Johnson.
He got screwed.
Even during his shot, they're standing.
They're standing in that bunker,
right?
And for them to say that is a hazard is crazy.
Which another heartbreak. And then now this U.S. Open where he's tied for the lead.
He's leading by 2 after
tied for the lead to start the day, leading by
9.
2 after the front 9. Still has a chance to put himself into a playoff, which is making a little bunny there in the last round, and doesn't happen. Now, that's a lot. It's a lot to take.
Mickelson went through a lot of close calls before he broke through. Dustin is still a relatively young guy. He's in clearly very good shape. So he's gonna, if he wants to, he can play probably for another 15 years.
Yeah.
And I'll say I like his chances at. Why not at the British Open? St. Andrews is built for bombers. Tiger Woods, when he in his prime winning, he just bashed it around that course. Yeah. So if he can get his mind right, he has 3 weeks.
You can see it 2 ways. You can be discouraged by the fact you haven't won one, or you could be encouraged by the fact that you constantly put yourself in position to win and feel like.
I think he looks at it like that. He has to be devastated, but I do think that he looks at it like, I was there, I had a chance. Did I blow it? Maybe. But I was right there.
And he seems like a guy who's, at least, he just seems like, to me, that he's getting better from year to year.
Yeah,
the way he hits that driver, it gives him such an advantage.
And he hits it straight.
Yeah. He can rip that driver on any hole if he wants to. He rarely missed it from what we saw.
Yeah, it just seemed like when guys were taking, because the course played so firm and fast that guys were taking probably hybrids and irons off of tees, he was still pulling his driver.
And
that's the confidence he had.
And the weakness on him, I think, was his short iron play, probably like controlling the distance on that, and that was pretty spot on. And for most of the time at Chambers Bay, I know they had said on the telecast that he was working hard on it, and it seemed to show. I don't have the exact stats on it, but when he was driving himself into wedge distance constantly on these ridiculously long
520 yard par fours.
Yeah, he looked good that way. So I would say he's going to get at least one. It's only a matter of time.
With the British Open, the wild card is always the weather. So, but if he hits the driver the way he did, last week, he's right there. Mm-hmm. And then he knows how to play Whistling Straits, and I'm sure he won't be grounding his club in a bunker. So why can't he win there? That's going to be a 7,600 yard beast that you need a guy that can carry the ball 310 yards off the tee, which he can, and hit those high irons that land softly on the green. So why wouldn't he be a contender there? I think his obstacle is going to be, the mental part is, can he get over, sort of the disappointment of, coming close and coming up short again. But I don't know. I might throw a couple of bucks on Dustin Johnson at the British Open.
Yeah. Well, anything else from the U.S. Open that we ought to talk about? Did we forget anything?
I mean, I don't think so, but still, it's utterly remarkable to me. I mean, I remember Nick Hardy I don't know how old he was as a freshman in high school, but I just remember him. He was this shorter kid, skinny kid, but he had these big feet, and he was great at golf. I mean, I think I know he made the state tournament. I think he was in the top 20 as a freshman, and then just to see his game grow, and then we didn't get to see him on TV, but for him to play at a U.S. Open, as a 19-year-old.
I think he made an appearance in Sunday's round at one point.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
I think they made one brief appearance. They were more interested in showing Cole Hammer, which the 15-year-old, which is
tired
fine.
of him after a while.
You can get a little yeah.
But I will say, in the car ride,
since he'll probably be around for the next 35 years.
in the car ride to Ravislow today, I was telling John that I don't know, a couple of days ago, I'm listening to PGA Tour radio, and it's John Feinstein's show, and he's talking to Peter Jacobson, who is a native of Portland, just kind of asking him, how great it was to have a major tournament in the Pacific Northwest for the very first time. And, he started then talking about just, the U.S. Open and how compelling it always is, and once again turned out to be a very entertaining tournament. He said, we have such great stories because the U.S. Open, of course, you have the professionals that are exempt, but you have all of these other qualifiers who all have their different stories. And he runs down the list. He's like, well, of course, you start with Jordan Spieth and, the battle he had with Dustin Johnson. And then he said, the low amateur Brian Campbell. And then he said, and Nick Hardy. And I'm not sure how he pulled Nick Hardy out,
right.
But maybe he was, found, Nick's story to be compelling too. Maybe it was the fact that he almost made a hole-in-one on a par 4, and maybe we ought to pay attention to this.
Maybe it's the fact that he booted his dad off the bag 3 days before the Open.
Yeah. So that's still. Jordan Spieth winning, getting the first 2 legs of the Grand Slam is great, but knowing someone who plays in that, play in that tournament, is
and you
pretty
take
cool.
a lot of credit for his development as a golfer. I'm sure.
Yeah. No, it's very cool.
He's going to stop answering your phone calls someday.
No, don't say that.
Yeah. Well, I think, next week, I think looking ahead a little bit here, it's going to start picking up again.
We have 2 big ones same week.
Yeah, same week. The John Deere Classic down in Silvis.
Which Jordan Spieth has said he is going to play. There was a Scottish reporter who asked him if he will go to the Scottish Open the week before the British Open, which of course that's the same week as the John Deere Classic. And Spieth said, no, I'm sticking to my original schedule, which means he will play at the John Deere Classic, which I know the people at the John Deere Classic breathed a big sigh of relief.
Was it 10 or 15 minutes after that comment that we got an email wrapping up Jordan Spieth's comments?
From the John Deere Classic.
Just in case you missed that, he's still coming.
Our friend Barry Cronin wanted to make sure that everybody knows he's still coming, which is great for that tournament. That tournament might have people driving from all over the.
We were told they're selling tickets like crazy, right?
Yeah, and so we're our plan is to go there the Thursday for the first round of that tournament, then hightail it back, and then Encompass Championship starts that Friday
in Glenview at North Shore Country Club.
That's Friday, July 8th.
July 8th, okay.
And that'll be the third and final year. I'm gonna pull out the old my sources.
Sources say
the North Shore. This is the last year for North Shore Country Club. No matter what happens with the title sponsor of this tournament, it's not coming back to North Shore. So, if you've always wanted to go out there and see that course and see the legends of the game,
you can see places where Matt's made double bogeys. You can see where you put it in the water.
I don't make double bogeys there.
You put it in the water on media day. Just see all the highlights.
I still made par.
Oh, that's good.
But
were you playing your own tee shot?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Nice.
Yeah, so those unfortunately those tournaments are the same week.
Right.
This year we'll be, we're assigned to cover the Encompass because it is in Glenview, so we'll be there for those 3 days, and the busy summer continues. After that, then the Western, Amateur is later that month.
Yeah, so I guess next week.
And then the USAM.
We'll probably split talking John Deere Classic and previewing the Encompass just because of the schedule. But yeah, a lot of good stuff. It's only warms up from here because it seems like it's starting to get something's happening every single week now. So we'll be here next week. We're probably not planning on taking another week off anytime soon. So don't fret. I know it was a really lonely Thursday, Friday last week without any teeing off podcast to listen to. What would people just drive to work in stunned silence or what?
We're really sorry that you didn't share our company in those rush hour commutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Until next week, until we start talking Encompass and John Deere Classic, I think that's it for us. Teeing off on Twitter, as always, at teeing__off. We'll see if we can't get Matt to send some tweets from that account one of these days. Matt is at Harness Preps, and I am at John_Borneman. I'll talk to you next time.
I saw at the outset. Oh, a big sun, a wave, and a storm is coming. We need to be safe. God, please send us something. Damned if this ain't gonna change my mind about falling in love for another time. Not the end of the line. If it's saccharine you want, it's the sweetest straight talk. I wish you were as sharp in the mind as you're easy on the ice. Any port in the storm is the one you report to. It's all the on water, God, what was I thinking? Damned if this ain't gonna change my mind about falling in love for another time.